welcome to Ink and Bones. My name is Jaden, and in this video, we're going to be doing the time lapse of the sketch layout and pencils of page 15 of my creator-owned Halloween comic book. Let's get drawn. For page 15, Patti, Jack, and Timmy have tracked the bullies down to the town graveyard. The bullies are hanging out, eating all the stolen candy that they've accumulated throughout the night, bullying all the little kids in the town. Patti, Jack, and Timmy have snuck up on them and are gonna crash their party. So for this page, my three objectives that I'd like to focus on are storytelling. Without words, can you tell what is happening? The camera angle, does it make sense? Does it convey the emotion that I'm trying to show within that panel? The second objective I'd like to focus on is the character acting, the postures, the gestures. Does their expression and their body language express the emotion in that scene? And the last one is the setting / ambiance. You know, the main question for this one is, this is a Halloween book. Does it look like Halloween and does it feel like Halloween? So while we work through the layout, let's go ahead and get into the breakdown of the storytelling section of the page. The storytelling really gets fleshed out in the layout. It determines like the energy, the feel, the overall look of the page. Everything happens within that layout. If you don't have a layout, like a good foundation, then what you build on top of that is going to be weak. Now, unlike the last page, that was kind of a drag to get through. Not really a drag, but I just couldn't think of what to draw. This one was a blast. I actually have been looking forward to drawing this page since I had finished writing the book. I don't know why, there's nothing like crazy significant that happens, but I really wanted to get to the graveyard where the bullies are kicking it and the heroes have snuck up upon them. So in regards to the layout, I needed to show the location, which is a graveyard. I needed to show the bullies where they were in the graveyard, and then where our heroes are as they've snuck up onto these bullies. And I had to make sure all of that can be seen pretty much in each panel. I wanted to make sure we all knew where the heroes were in regards to the bullies, what the bullies were doing, the reason why they wouldn't see the heroes sneaking up. And that all comes down to placement of the camera and your character blocking. And that's something that I kind of really wanted to address in this video, is where to put that camera, how to set up a location in regards to what you're aiming for, like what your end result is. How do you set yourself up for success? And something that actually helped me progress in that area is just looking up videos for like filming YouTube. Like where do you put your camera, where do the lights go in regard to what you're trying to do. And then I just kind of took that knowledge and put it into the comic work, because you're storyboarding, which your storyboard is acting as the camera. And when you're using the camera, you know, there's rules that you can't break. Like there's one called the 180-degree rule, where if you got the camera on the right side of a character and say I'm talking to someone, you know, over here, that camera isn't gonna break that plane. Even if it'll jump to their side, or it's, you know, it jumps to my over the shoulder, it's still over my right shoulder and then, you know, their left shoulder. But it stays, this camera would stay here the whole time. Even if we were moving it around, it stays here the whole time. Because if I were to switch angles and you were now looking at me from this way, it would be disorienting. You wouldn't know what's going on. So especially when you're, you know, telling a story and someone's talking this way, you can't have them all of a sudden be talking this way and facing the complete opposite direction and expect that viewer, the reader, to not get confused, because that would be confusing, because you'd be like, why the fuck are they switched, you know? So definitely look up and study film, which sounds weird, study film to draw properly, but just in this case, you're essentially drawing what the camera is seeing in a movie. Like a comic book is just a movie. It's a compilation of scenes that tell a story and get to an ending, you know? Look up some films, look up like film studies, or just where to put a camera in a scene. Where do I put my lights? You know, you always want to You want the camera to be set on the dark side rather than the light side. For some reason, it just looks better, looks more cinematic. So you want to always think of the camera location and where that is, because that is actually going to help you drive your story even more than the characters would, or the setting. The camera can do a lot of the work. For example, the original layout of this page was all like wide shot panels. Not necessarily like they were going to be wide shots, like all establishing shots and you're going to see a bunch of information, but like they were wide paneled, which wasn't really going to help me sell the words that I had written for this page. It looked cool when I laid it out, it looked cool in the somewhat of the idea that I had initially for the page, but you know, I went and switched it up to some really tight close-up shots. Like I have a shot of Jack's hand in his pocket, so in the next scene when he pulls out his little, you know, stink bombs and shit, it's a little bit more effective, because even if it's not a wide shot, but you have a wide panel, you have to draw more shit in that panel, and some stuff, especially stuff that you're trying to focus on, might get a little muddied. You won't be able to focus on it as much as you would if you were doing like a smaller panel with a really tighter shot. Now, for the most part, the page is pretty much wide shots. The first panel is a wide shot looking down. The second panel is an extreme wide shot. I mean, you can see the full layout. That's my establishing shot, so you know exactly where everyone is. So when I do those closer shots, you don't have to guess, you know, like why is this guy behind a wall? What wall is he behind? Or where's Patti in relation to Jack and stuff like that. So definitely want to set an establishing shot, usually which is a wide shot. But this whole page, I really wanted to make sure that I showed where the bullies were in comparison to the heroes of the page. I added that shot later, after the fact, of the bully eating Timmy's candy, because we didn't even know what the bullies look like, why the hero characters are going after them, you know, and it very blatantly says Timmy's, and it's on the giant bag of candy that he's eating out of. So we know as the viewer, they know as the characters that, you know, these guys have our treasure that we need to retrieve back from them. Well, now that the layout is wrapping up, let's go ahead and dive into the character section while we get into the pencils. And by character, like I said earlier, I'm talking about, you know, character acting, their postures, their gestures, the way they move, the way they sit, how the characters are moving, how they're acting in each scene. And for this page, I'm actually pretty stoked on how the characters turned out. A lot of them look natural. They look like they have weight. They don't look stiff. Their postures and their actions seem real. They all are kind of doing their own thing as if they kind of have their own story. You know, in the second panel, I have Timmy kind of looking over Jack's shoulder while Patti is looking around on the other side. You know, she's kind of squatting, looking around. One bully is eating the candy, laying back. One bully's kind of got his arms on his knees. There's a couple. There's a girl bully, which we'll see close-ups of these guys in the next page. But there's a girl bully, you know, laying on the lap of her boyfriend, and you know, they're eating candy. Everyone kind of has their own objective, and that's a huge thing when it comes to drawing characters, is they have to feel real. Otherwise, if they look stiff, they look a little bit too mannequin, they're not fully fleshed out, you're not really gonna, I don't know, it's not like I've tested this. I just feel like you might not be as invested in the character if what you're looking at is kind of stale. It might be easier to draw the character just standing there with their hands in their pockets, but that looks boring. You know, have him leaning against the wall with his elbow out and maybe like a cigarette hanging and his hands kind of limp, or you know, just stuff like that. You just got to give them a little bit more life, a little bit more bounce. You know, humans have like a bounce to them. We bend, our bones aren't straight. You know, we're very loose sort of beings. When you start, if you actually watch people how they walk, most people, some people walk like they have a fucking popsicle stick up their ass, but most people, they kind of have they just cruise. Look at a skateboarder, like a really good skateboarder, when they're pushing, going down a street or something, they just look like they're a fucking gazelle, you know. So You really want to capture that effortless movement, that weight. It's a weightlessness, but also making sure they have weight. It's weird. You want to make sure your characters feel heavy. I don't know, just that line of gravity. Once you understand that, your characters will start to feel like they're actually in that scene. And another huge thing is the expression on the face. Imagine if the characters that you're following, or just someone that you know, when you talk to them, you tell them a joke and they're just completely straight faced the whole time, dead behind the eyes, just, blank expression. You probably wouldn't want to talk to that person anymore because they don't seem interested or give a shit at all about what you're saying. So why would you care about what they're saying? And that totally translates to comic books or just artwork. I think linear visual artwork probably is the only way that this matters. So when you get posture combined with a facial expression, the puzzle pieces connect, and then you can really make some believable characters. We're not buying a Gotham City comic book, we're buying a Batman comic book. But once you buy that book and you're reading that book, the setting and location actually can enhance that character, especially when it comes to Gotham City. Location is a very huge thing. And speaking of location, let's go ahead and get into the settings section of the page. So we're in a graveyard for this scene, and Halloween book, slam dunk as far as locations go. That's cool, but I needed to find a spot where the bullies could all hang out, kind of clumped together, to where if I'm showing our hero characters, which I do, I show them kind of, Jack is telling them to shush, and over his shoulder behind the wall that they're hiding in, or that they're hiding behind, we can see a couple of the bullies, lounging and eating candy. So I needed to make sure that location-wise it made sense. It didn't seem phony or very contrived. Like, this would make sense, even though I'm not sure them stringing up Halloween lights at a cemetery would necessarily go unchecked by the police. But for the book's sake, it seems somewhat plausible, the setting that they're in. And when our hero characters decide to get ready to do their little ambush that they're going to do on the next page, how can they set up for that without being heard by the bullies, under proper coverage from the bullies? All of this had to come into consideration for when I was blocking out the way the tombstones were and the whole setting of the place. When you think of a cemetery, you think of individual tombstones, and that actually did kind of hold me up for a little bit of how can I have our three hero characters next to each other when they're taking cover, presumably behind tombstones. How can I have them all three together, able to talk and come up with their plan without being seen? So I haven't really seen these in real life, but I see them when I look up spooky graveyard references. It's like they're like giant tombstones. I think they're mini mausoleums or something, almost like a little crypt that you can go in. And I had the hero characters set up behind one of those, so it's like this giant wall that is like separating them and the bullies. I could have put them, the heroes, I could have put them in the tree line, but we've spent so much time in the fucking trees, and I've been wanting to draw this goddamn graveyard scene since I finished writing the book. So I place them directly in the graveyard, and I could make it work. I have really wanted to show this graveyard since finishing this book. And then to answer the objective question, does it look like Halloween? Does it feel like Halloween? Well, it's in a cemetery, so I feel like that in itself it's a little bit of a cheat code, I guess. But I still do the string lights. I found a way to add those. On the ground, I still have my jack-o'-lanterns. I got pumpkins throughout the whole thing. The gate spikes have bats on them. I did my best to still keep it a little bit of a heightened sense of Halloween. There wouldn't be string lights or any of those things in a real graveyard, but still bring in the jack-o'-lanterns and all the little extra shit that I could to the page. Just to remind the reader, oh yeah, this is a Halloween book. And it looks like our time lapse is actually about to wrap up. Well, we have reached the end of the pencils, and something I'm going to start doing, instead of just scrolling down and kind of relaying what is in the panels, I'm just going to go ahead and read off the words that I have for that page. I also included the last line from page 14 in the beginning of this, just because it leads into the page. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out the final pencils for page 15. They found a trail of treat wrappers that littered the ground, and it led to the graveyard with no one around. Alas, the bullies, they laughed as they ate stolen treats, while Patti and Jack had a trick sweeter than sweet. They'd sneak up and scare the pants off the mean crew. Jack had him some stink bombs and packets of goo. So when the moment was right and the timing was prime, ... And you will have to tune in to the next page to see what goes after the ... But that about wraps it up for the page 15 pencils. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw and you want to see more, consider subscribing. Slash that like button. And if you want to see the pages that I've penciled so far, go ahead and check out the Patti and Jack playlist. But for now, this has been another episode of Ink and Bones, and I will see you on the next page. Bye.